Hey everyone, welcome back to Tactical Magic. This is Molly Mandelberg, your host. And I don't know about you, but I am definitely feeling the feelings of the fall season and the thinning of the veil. We're actually recording this episode on Halloween, even though it's not airing on Halloween Day. But what better time to have the conversation of the mystical and the magical, the parts of ourselves that they keep saying, the thing that can heal you is already within you. And what if that's actually true? And what if with expert support, with mentorship, with guidance, it was more easy to access those parts of us to allow us to heal fully from the things that have happened? So I have an amazing expert on that here with me today. Hang tight, we'll be back in just a sec. It's not just about mastering technology. It's not just about brand or messaging. It's not just about making more money. It's about showing up in a big way so your people can find you. This is about bringing your most wild and authentic self into the hustle and grind. Welcome to Tactical Magic, a business strategies podcast for the warrior goddess entrepreneur. All right. So with over 25 years of experience as a therapist, Ernie Flores has helped individuals overcome trauma, depression, anxiety, relationship challenges, and substance use disorders. Ernie's lifelong interest in shamanism deepened during his master's studies, where he wrote his thesis on the healing qualities of altered states of consciousness, including shamanism. It wasn't until 2021, however, after experiencing a series of profound personal losses and entering a dark night of the soul, that he fully embraced his path as a shamanic practitioner. This transformative journey led to his formal training in the shamanic arts with modern medicine woman Beáta Alföldi. As the founder of Flores Shamanic Healing, Ernie provides private sessions and workshops rooted in shamanic practices. His passion is empowering individuals to connect with spirit, heal from trauma, and cultivate lives filled with joy, purpose, and deeper connections with their loved ones. Welcome to the show, Ernie.
Thank you so much. Glad
Yeah,
I'm
happy to
here.
have you here. I want to say to, pull the veil back is I actually came across Ernie as he was speaking at a healing arts fair in Grants Pass, Oregon a few weeks ago. And I thought, you know what? I'd like to have him on the show and pick his brain about what he knows. So the first question I usually ask people is, how did you find your way into doing this work? Which I know we got a little glimpse of that in your bio, but do you want to share a little bit about this path unfolding for you?
Absolutely. So, my first foray into shamanism was when I was doing my master's degree. And I've always been interested in shamanism, but I had to do a deeper dive for this master's degree. But even before that, what really got me started was reading these books by Carlos Castaneda. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him,
Yeah.
but yeah, world renowned writer about shamanism. And so reading those books really captured my attention, and I knew that this was something amazing that I wanted to learn more about. So then I did my master's degree in psychotherapy, and I had a 25-year career as a therapist. And then during the pandemic, things really fell apart for me, and I felt so lost and disconnected from myself after a series of losses that I realized that if I didn't save myself and rescue myself, that I would be continuing to feel lost and disconnected. So I found this YouTube video that Beáta Alföldi had done, and there was something that she was saying that really spoke to me about shamanism. And I knew at that moment that I needed to move forward with this passion of mine that's been simmering on the back burner for 30 years, but finally came forward. And so I did her training. She offers a training in shamanic practitioner training. And so I did that in 2021. And it wasn't just doing the training, learning the tools. It was about going through the healing process yourself. And so it was very transformative process. And I came out of there a different person. And I knew that I wanted to offer this to folks. So I opened up my own business, Flores Shamanic Healing. And I started with offering services free to my family and my friends, just so I could start practicing and get better. And now my office is at Holistic Path for Wellness in Medford. So I do private sessions there, and I do monthly workshops there as well too.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, I want to just highlight that there's some common threads after, asking hundreds of healers and practitioners how they found their way to doing the work that they do now. But one of the main themes is I had an interest and I got curious about it. And it led me to a moment where a teacher showed up and I said yes to the training. I said yes to the experience. And not only did that experience then give me a modality to practice as a business, but it also changed me so much as a person. And I just love how beautifully your story like encapsulates that. It's kind of a hero's journey story, but there's two components of I got curious about something I was interested in, and I said yes when a door opened to me. And those two things, I think, when we're willing to do them, there's no way we can stray from our path. And it sucks that sometimes it's through like a dark night of the soul that we get pushed towards that need for a new door to open. But it's also, I think, designed that way because sometimes if we're content and complacent, we're not as inclined to take a leap in a new direction.
So true, Molly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And for everybody, that dark night of the soul could be different. It could be a medical problem or an accident or some loss or an illness.
Yeah.
So it's different for everybody.
Totally. And I love that the work you're doing now is definitely designed to help people through a dark night of the soul kind of experience too. Yeah. So one of the things I know is key, which you mentioned in your bio, I think, was altered states of consciousness. And can you just sort of, for anybody out there who's not familiar with that term as we are, kind of explain what that is? It sounds kind of, scary to some people, I think, the trance state, but can you break it down a little bit?
Absolutely. So we make these transitions into altered states of consciousness all the time, multiple times a day. It's something that's really normal, comes natural. When we wake up and start our day, we transition from the dream state into our waking life. So that's an altered state there. Another example is sometimes when we're driving long distances and we just check out, and then 20 miles down the road we're like, wait a minute, how did I get here? So
Yeah.
that's another way. And also using our imagination when we want things and we imagine what it could be like. All those are altered states of consciousness. It's the hypnosis as well too.
Yeah.
So for me, what I do to help people get into an altered state of consciousness is using my shamanic drum. I use a rattle, singing, and I call in the four directions and all of our spirit families to assist. And that beating of the drum, it helps synchronize people into a relaxed state of consciousness so that they're not really awake, but they're not asleep either. They're in between. And the critical part is that when you're in an altered state of consciousness, your mind is more susceptible to suggestion, and you bypass the normal conscious mind that we think with. And so a lot more things can happen, a lot more things you can have access to. For example, if you're working with doing therapy, most of the time you're going to be talking from your conscious mind. So the benefit with shamanism is that you can go into these really deep places inside yourself in an altered state because you bypass the conscious mind.
Yeah.
So pretty powerful tool.
Really powerful. And yeah, I mean, if we could boil it down, the conscious mind is the main thing that's in the way of us changing almost always and in the way of us healing almost always. And if anybody's ever had a, intellectual understanding of something that then didn't change their lives, it's because the conscious mind was chewing on it, but it didn't actually land in that subconscious sort of fertile soil to begin sprouting roots and growing into something. I started my business doing hypnotherapy. So the trance state was the first altered state of consciousness that I really like practiced and dug into. And now I work with psilocybin facilitation in Oregon. And that is sort of a take a pill to get to an altered state of consciousness. But it's all the same thing. It's how can we kind of power down the pervasive nature of the conscious mind to control and to understand and to intellectualize and to make sense of what's going on and access that subconscious deeper layer where maybe there's a root cause experience where a traumatic event occurred and suddenly you've been living from that base point ever since. Or maybe there's a deeper part of you that could use a new suggestion that with the right support can now bloom into a new way of being in your life. So yeah, I love the mechanics of that. And I will say from personal experience, the shamanic drumming is an amazing tool. I know some people have, I think, points of view about the word shamanism and what that means and what the experience would be like. And I know you aren't necessarily journeying for people. You're taking them to a space where they can journey for themselves. Will you speak about that sort of difference a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I call myself a shamanic practitioner because the word shaman was originally derived from Siberia. And I've never been there and I've never been trained in that culture, so I call myself a shamanic practitioner, and that fits well for me. And so I found that when I'm doing journeys with folks, that it's much more powerful if they could do the journeys themselves, because then they get to witness what happens. They get to see and they get to feel, have their own direct experience of their animal spirit guides or angels. Something gets lost if I do the journey for them and then share them what I saw or what happened. It's much more powerful if they can experience it themselves. And I found that everybody can do this. I've never met somebody that is not able to do a shamanic journey. And I like to liken it to a guided meditation is another way of saying it. So everybody could do this.
Yeah.
And what we're really doing is using the imagination as a doorway to walk through. And the imagination is so powerful that it actually is doing it's deeper work than it may seem. And it also focuses on symbols too. So you may be given some symbols that's how the subconscious communicates. It's not always a direct communication.
Yeah, and I think people, depending on their sort of operating system, some people see things, some people sense things, some people are more auditory. So there isn't a right or wrong way to be in that journey state and to receive information from it, that it varies from person to person. And yeah, the symbolism can be interpreted in many different ways. But I think one of the things I used to really encourage in my hypnosis clients, which was very much a similar, not the same by any means, but a similar state of being that we're going to access the subconscious mind, that we have to kind of choose to trust or to know that the things that are coming to us are real. And even if they're not like really happening, that they're real enough to be used as the symbol, to be used as the information that we now get to go and process. Yeah, so there's a element of trust kind of required in what you're seeing or experiencing being a real thing that's shifting and changing. Would
Yeah,
you?
good point. And I also find that the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what isn't. And so when you're programming yourself, that's good to know that it really can't tell the difference. All it knows is what you are thinking and the words that you use throughout the day. That's what's actually programming our subconscious mind. So it's really important to pay attention to your own thoughts and your own words, because they are creating your life. And you may not even know that, or you may not like what you're creating.
Totally.
That's the power of the subconscious mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And awareness is definitely the first part of that. So one of the things that I got really excited about when I was looking at your website and seeing your flyers when we met in person was the topic of spirit animals and how spirit animals can be connected with and sort of tapped into and yeah, connected with for the purpose of guidance and information. Can you speak a little bit about sort of why have them, why find them, who they're for, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. So, a teacher told me that all all of us have 9 animal spirit guides, with one main one, but several side ones, and that they are there starting at birth. So they're already a part of our life, and they help guide us to our highest. And when you are able to meet them and to see who they are and to make a connection, build a relationship with them, it changes everything. For me, mine is an owl named Ono. And for example, I like to call on my animal spirit guides for guidance when I'm stuck with something, when I need another perspective, a higher perspective, and for support. I was out hiking, and it was getting a bit late in the day, and I decided to call in my spirit guides. So I had an owl there with me, a white wolf, and a bear. These are my top 3 that I use frequently. So, if somebody were walking with me on the path, they wouldn't be able to see them. They were there in my own mind's eye. And when I called them in, it changed everything, because I felt so safe. I felt so protected that it just shifted everything to have their energy there with me. So it's an ally that can help you with things when things are rough, when there's some uncertainty. And they can help you with your journeys for sure. They can take you to places, help you meet other beings. It's like an inside track with the spirit world to have your animal ally there with you. And the best part is you get to have the medicine of that specific animal ally. For example, if your animal ally is a eagle, then the gift that you receive is having a broader vision, because eagles fly so high they could see everything and have this really broad perspective. And so that's a good thing to have. Bears are great for boundaries and protection. So they each have their own different one, but you don't get to choose them. They choose you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's totally possible to call on and tap into your guides, your teammates, your spirit support system. And there's something just deeper or more potent when you know who they are, when you've seen their faces or you've learned their names or you've had a conversation with them. There's something that really makes it a different conversation when you're asking for that support, when you're on the hike, or when you're going through a moment and you're like, hey, I need you to come help me right now, so and so by name. So yeah, I think that's beautiful, and such a gift to hold space for people to find those beings and to connect with them and to know that they have access to them. And I totally agree with the like different flavors of medicine, and also they come to you sometimes. Like I have one that's a stag, and anytime I see a stag or a picture of a stag or a figurine of a stag, it's like there's a moment there where I feel connected to that energy. I feel connected to that support. It's like it's glimmering into my life to remind me of like, hey, you're not alone here. Something has your back, which is a really nice feeling in a world that often makes us feel isolated and disconnected.
So true. Yeah, animals are great with bringing messages to us. I've had a teacher that comes to me in the form of a butterfly. So every time I see a butterfly, I feel her energy there. It's
Awesome.
beautiful when that happens. Or people that have passed, they come in the form of animals.
Yeah.
That happens frequently.
Yeah. My grandmother usually comes to me as a butterfly or moth too. It's fun. So who generally is, coming to this work? What are some of the sort of reasons or symptoms or experiences that people are having that they say, you know what, I'm ready for this right now?
The most common type of request I get is somebody who has some trauma that they are dealing with that still affects them and interfering with their lives. And so we typically do a soul retrieval. And what that means is going back in time to when the traumatic event happened And it could be when they were really young, just a baby, or when they were a teenager, wherever it is. And they would have an opportunity to see what happened from a different perspective and have an opportunity to connect with this younger part of themselves and to offer them loving kindness and support that they didn't have in that at that moment when they were going through the traumatic event.
Mm.
And then asking them if they would be willing to come back, because the soul retrieval is about this part of you that disconnected from you and is still trapped and lost at that time in your life. And so you invite them back in. And most of the time they say yes. And when they do, people can feel like they're back in their bodies, or they feel like they have more energy, or they feel more whole than they did before. They have more internal resources. And then that also triggers a whole idea of taking care, reparenting their inner child. So they get to become the parent now. And so that means when that inner child feels scared or triggered, that it's up to them to give their inner child what it needs. And maybe some loving reassurance or some attention, reminding them that you're never going to leave them, that you've got their back.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things helps to reassure your inner child, and they feel okay.
Yeah.
So that's another beautiful part, is healing these wounds.
Yeah. And coming home to yourself and finding those places where you got lost by perfectly good reason. It was too uncomfortable to be in your body or be, in that lifetime at that moment. And some part of you walked out that those parts of you deserve to come back and come home too. Yeah, it's really beautiful. And I can speak to that from personal experience as well, the sense of feeling embodied and also this new kind of sense of responsibility to oneself when you realize, oh, that's that, 6-year-old part of me that just needs to be reminded, hey, I've got you now. You're okay. And I'm going to handle this for us as the adult, person now. Yeah, I'm getting a little emotional just thinking about it. It's powerful.
It is powerful, very powerful for me as well too. So
Yeah.
going through that whole process with folks really helps them become more whole
Yeah.
when they can heal from these past traumas. And so that's probably the most common request I get, is for healing for that. And then also the second one is ancestral lineage clearing. Just because everything that happens in our life didn't start with us, it started generations before us. And we're just carrying this pattern that started a long time ago. And it feels like it's ours.
Yeah.
But in this journey, you would be able to connect with your ancestors and find out where this started and have a conversation with them and be able to hear why and how this thing started. And when you hear that and you feel that, it's so much easier to let it go when you know that it's not yours and it never was yours. So that's a real powerful journey to do as well too.
Yeah. Amazing. So you mentioned you have workshops from time to time. Is that something ongoing people can be a part of? Do you ever do workshops online?
Absolutely. I mostly do them in person, but I do some online periodically. And the best way to find out what those are is hopping over to my website and signing up for my email list. And that way, anytime there's a new workshop, I always send an update for folks so they can be aware of what it is and see if they're interested in attending. And I usually have those at the Holistic Path for Wellness in Medford, Oregon.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's floreshamanichealing.com. We'll make sure to put the link to Ernie's website in the show notes for you in case you're driving while you're watching this. Yeah, you've shared so much wisdom already on this episode, and thank you so much for sharing your story of how you found this work. I know there's a lot of people out there who are dancing with this new modality they've got, or this, deep desire to exit the matrix of their career that they've been stuck in. And they need some inspiration to say, yes, it's okay to take that leap, even if you've been in a career for 25 years, to explore something new. And I think your message is really encouraging, especially on that note. But yeah, are there any last words of wisdom that you want to leave people with?
Hmm. Well, the workshop that I just did was on healing the body. And, some of the takeaways that came out of that workshop was that our body is always communicating with us, and that those subtle aches, pains, or pokey feelings, those are all communications from the body. And so to slow down, to connect with the body and pay attention to what the message is, because our body is full of wisdom. Our body knows everything about us. That's how muscle testing came about, is by checking in with the wisdom of the body. So just wanted to encourage people to have conversations with your body. I know it sounds weird, but to talk to your body, talk to different body parts, and ask them, what do I need to know about this? If there's some pain there, what do I need to know there? What emotions are here that I need to feel? So I'll leave you with that.
Definitely. Yeah, such great advice. And so much of the pain or discomfort we feel in our bodies is really our bodies trying to signal that something is off or something needs to be acknowledged or expressed and felt. So I love that message. Thank you for leaving us on that note. And yeah, again, it's floresshamanichealing.com for anybody that wants to go and check it out. I'm pretty sure I saw there's a link for 30-minute or so consultation that people can go to your website and get a call with you if they want to.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So definitely take Ernie up on that if this conversation has piqued your interest at all. And whatever happens, keep asking big questions and taking bold action, because you are here for a reason. Thanks for coming, Ernie.
Thank you, Molly. Bye-bye.